On my 10th birthday, I insisted on having ice cream. My parents had to take me out to buy it. There was a car accident on the road, and only my elder sister, Shayna Jones, and I survived with the protection of our parents. From then on, my elder sister hated me to the core. She took good care of my cousin, but she was cold and malicious towards me. She often asked me, "How come it wasn't you who died in the car accident?" As she wished, I had cancer and would die soon. Coming out of the hospital, the diagnosis paper in my hand sentenced me to death. It was unexpected but reasonable. I suddenly really wanted to tell my elder sister, Shayna, that her wish was about to come true. Winston called me at that moment. "Chad, today is sister's birthday. Aren't you coming back?" Winston Wilson was my cousin. He called me Chad but called Shayna sister. Shayna always called me by my full name, but called him intimately Winston. The degree of intimacy was clear at a glance. Every year on her birthday, I prepared gifts for her carefully, but she didn't seem to like them and casually threw them aside without even taking a look. However, I thought she would definitely like the gift this year. After all, she had been looking forward to it for so many years. "Well, I'll go back in a while," I answered. As I was about to hang up the phone, I heard Shayna's cold and disdainful words. "Why do you ask a stranger to come here? It's a mood killer." Since the age of 10, I had been nothing more than a hated stranger to her. When I arrived at the Jones family's villa, it was already evening and the lights inside were shining brightly. Once upon a time, it used to be a warm harbor for me, but now I couldn't remember when was the last time I came back. Pushing open the door, the original laughter and joy came to an abrupt halt. Shayna wore a birthday hat, and her face was smeared with pure white cream by Winston. It looked funny and heartwarming. The memories of childhood began to come back. Before the age of 10, when my parents were still alive, every year on anyone's birthday, I stubbornly put cream on Shayna's face. I arrogantly wrapped my arm around her neck and declared to everyone, "Shayna is my older sister, and no one is allowed to compete with me." Now I had lost my older sister, but she already had a new younger brother. Shayna's face instantly sank when she saw me. "Who let you come? You are not welcome here." I knew I was not welcome without her saying it, but I still wanted to find an excuse to see her. I wanted to take a good look at her. Maybe it was a farewell. I forced a smile, pulling the corners of my mouth. "Happy birthday." I handed her an envelope containing my diagnosis certificate. "This is my last birthday gift for you." Shayna's face instantly turned dark. "Are you cursing me?" She suddenly knocked the envelope out of my hand. The force was so strong that my arm went numb. I didn't know if it was because death was approaching, but even the slightest pain was magnified several times. "Chad, if you don't want to come, you don't have to." "Do you think I will beg you to come?" "It's not that I don't want to come. I can't come anymore." Before leaving, she told me, "Clean up the mess in your bedroom. Winston happens to need a music room." I turned around and went upstairs, pushing open the door to my bedroom. The furnishings inside had been frozen in time since I was 10 years old. The princess dresses my mom bought for me were still in the wardrobe. I packed my childhood clothes into the box one by one. There were also many items related to Chibi Maruko-chan on the desk, which Shayna collected for me before I turned 10. I packed a box full of warm memories before I turned 10. On the day of my death, they would be there to accompany me. At least I wouldn't be lonely and afraid. The suitcase was a bit heavy, my body was weak, and I couldn't move it anymore. When I was going downstairs, I accidentally looked up and met Shayna's gaze. I lost my footing and the suitcase rolled down the stairs. The items related to Chibi Maruko-chan broke free from the constraints of the suitcase and shattered. Shayna quietly looked at the mess on the ground with turmoil in her eyes. "Chad Jones, you're cruel. You're really cruel. Get lost. Don't let me see you again." I didn't care about the pain from the fall. I crawled and stuffed everything, good and bad, into the suitcase. Like a deserter, I escaped through the gate. It was raining heavily outside, but it was embarrassing for me to go back since I came out in a hurry. The door behind me opened. I turned around with hope, thinking that Shayna would shelter me from the wind and rain like she did when we were children and protect me by her side. But she just coldly threw the envelope I gave her into the rain. The paper was soaked, the ink was mottled, and it was unrecognizable. "Call the decorators tomorrow and renovate the entire bedroom." I couldn't tell if the water on my face was sweat or tears. I turned back and took a deep look at this place that had witnessed my joys and sorrows. Farewell. After getting out of the taxi, the rain outside was still drizzling. In the community, it was dark with only warm lights shining from the residential buildings in the distance. After getting wet in the rain, I felt dizzy and cold with my stomach churning. The house was empty without any sense of home. It's okay. I still have them. I opened the suitcase and took out the things inside one by one. The items related to Chibi Maruko-chan had been damaged, and even the princess dresses were wet. I didn't cry when I knew the diagnosis, nor did I cry when I was kicked out by Shayna, but now I couldn't control myself anymore. I curled up on the sofa, tears flowing like a bursting flood. I always greedily wanted to hold on to the warmth around me, but in the end, I struggled in vain. I still vividly remembered the sympathetic look from the doctor. "Chad, spend more time with your family. Do what you want to do, and don't have any regrets." But I had long lost my family. In my life after the age of 10, only regrets remained. In a half-awake state, my stomach hurt uncomfortably before I could even run to the bathroom. I vomited a mouthful of blood. The bright red blood stung my nerves as if it were the car accident from years ago. Back then, my sister and I were protected by our parents, surrounded by a sea of bright red blood. My parents had long been silent. I was scared and cried loudly. My elder sister tightly held my hand and said, "Chad, sister is still here. Don't be afraid." She sang to me and told me stories. After being rescued, I still held her hand tightly and followed her closely. Her leg was injured, but she still gave her hospital bed to me to sleep on even when she was on the drip. She sat aside and accompanied me. How did my dear sister, who used to take care of me so much, disappear in the following years? The blood awakened my terrible memories. The strong facade I put on during the day collapsed in an instant. I trembled as I picked up my phone, hoping to find some comfort. The phone was answered, but it was Winston's voice that came through. "Chad, please, can you stop bothering sister? You caused her to lose her parents, but you can't help her with anything. Can you please stop causing her trouble?" I stood still, stunned, as the phone was hung up at some point. It turns out that in her heart, I am just a troublemaker, a harmful person. I used to be the baby she held in her hands. She gave me my name, saying that she would treat me well for a lifetime. Feeling alternately hot and cold, my consciousness became a bit hazy, and I fell onto the sofa. In a daze, a familiar figure broke in and anxiously and gently picked me up. Her embrace was so warm, a deep and pleasant voice sounded in my ear. "Chad, wake up, little guy.